A horse hits 70 kilometers per hour. Your ancestor never broke 25. Hold that gap in your mind for a moment. The animal explodes across open grass, gone in seconds, a blur that every human who ever lived couldn't come close to matching. Your great-grandfather 1,000 times over doesn't even try. He watches it vanish, and then he starts walking after it. Not running. Walking. By sundown, that animal is dead, and he isn't even out of breath. So how does the slowest hunter on the savannah catch the one creature built to outrun everything, including him? It sounds like a riddle with no answer. The fast animal gets away. That's just how predation works, right? Except it never worked that way. For most of your bloodline's time on this planet, speed was the loser's game, and your ancestors won by refusing to play it entirely. When scientists Dennis Bramble and Daniel Lieberman published their landmark research in 2004, they pointed to something no other large predator on the grasslands could do. Something so ordinary you did it this morning walking to your kitchen. The animal had claws, hooves, and 3 times the top speed. Your ancestor had a single advantage buried in his own flesh, and it turned every fast, frightened creature on that plain into something he could simply run into the ground. Picture a gazelle the instant it spots him. It detonates. One heartbeat, it's grazing peacefully. The next, it's a streak of dust tearing across open ground at 40 kilometers an hour and climbing, gone behind the scrub before he's taken 3 steps. It won. That's what your eyes tell you. And your eyes are right for about a minute. Because here's what that gazelle cannot do. It cannot cool itself while it runs. Every 4-legged animal on that plain dumps heat the same way, by standing still and panting, throwing warmth off through a wide-open mouth. But it cannot pant while it gallops. The lungs and legs are locked to the same rhythm, breath chained to stride. The moment it sprints, the one system keeping it from cooking inside its own skin shuts completely off. Heat builds with nowhere to go. A gazelle's core temperature can spike 4.5 degrees during a hard run, enough to push a body past the threshold where it simply stops working. So it has to stop, stand still, and gasp the heat back out. And the instant it stops, the slow thing reappears on the horizon. Still walking. The chase isn't a race. It's a slow execution dressed up as one. The animal burns through its own reserves in furious sprints, while your ancestor spends almost nothing, closing the gap one collapse at a time. Run, recover. Run, recover. Except each recovery grows shorter, each sprint burns hotter until the heat wins. The gazelle doesn't get caught so much as it overheats, its own engine redlining until the body quietly powers itself down and folds into the grass. The hunter walks the last few meters and finishes it with a stone. No claws, no fangs, no speed. Just a creature that couldn't be made to stop pursuing one that couldn't keep going. But endurance was never the whole weapon. The deeper weapon was something happening behind the hunter's eyes the entire time. The gazelle is long gone, over the rise, out of sight, no dust left hanging in the air. By every surface rule of the hunt, the trail is dead. The hunter crouches. In the dirt is a scuff no wider than your thumb, a blade of grass bent the wrong way, a fleck of dried saliva at the edge of a track. To you, it's nothing. To him, it's a complete sentence. He reads it the way you're reading this line right now, left to right, certain, without conscious effort. The animal went this way. It's tiring. It's favoring its left side. It paused here longer than last time. He hasn't seen the gazelle since it vanished over the horizon. He doesn't need to. He isn't chasing the animal anymore. He's chasing the story the animal leaves behind in the ground, building a picture of something invisible from fragments scattered across the earth. This is the real weapon, and it lives not in his legs, but in what's doing the reading. Long before anyone wrote a word or counted past 10, your ancestors were running the first science on Earth, gathering evidence, constructing theories, predicting where something they couldn't see would appear next, then testing those predictions with their own feet across miles of open ground. A wrong guess meant the trail went cold and the family went hungry. The brains that guessed right are the ones that eventually became yours. And underneath that remarkable brain ran the engine making everything possible. Your ancestor had shed almost all his fur and grown millions of tiny glands across his skin, each one weeping water to pull heat off the body as fast as exertion built it up. A cooling system still soaking your shirt at the gym today, running on nothing but sweat and patience, while every animal he tracked had only a gaping mouth and nowhere useful to put the heat. Bare skin, a million little valves, a brain that reads the dirt like a page. That combination didn't just make your ancestor a successful hunter. It made him something stranger and more dangerous, a creature who could rewrite the rules of the hunt entirely and eventually begin reshaping the land itself. Picture a herd at a dead run, 100 animals pouring across flat ground in a river of muscle. On either side of them rises a low wall of stacked stone. The herd doesn't slow. Walls mean nothing to a sprinting gazelle. It reads them as open corridor, as escape route, as freedom. The channel feels like open ground, except the two walls are angled subtly toward each other. A kilometer ahead, they nearly touch. And where they meet, hidden until the final stride, the earth drops away into a pit deeper than a man is tall. The herd doesn't run into a trap. It runs into a trap that was designed and built before any animal in that herd was ever born. Across the deserts of the Middle East, archaeologists have identified more than 6,000 of these stone structures, ancient hunting funnels with arms stretching for kilometers, their full scale visible only from the air. When researcher Remy Cressard and his team confirmed their purpose in 2022, the implications were staggering. These weren't fences or holding pens. They were kill machines drawn across entire valleys, engineered to swallow a full herd in a single afternoon. And they aren't even the oldest version we've found. Off the coast of Japan, hunters carved rows of pit traps into a flat terrace and drove animals over them 30,000 years ago, a slaughter floor laid into the earth before the last ice age had even loosened its grip. Think carefully about what this meant for the animal. It could outrun the man. It could never outrun the ground itself. By the time it was sprinting down that stone corridor, the contest was already over, decided years, perhaps decades, earlier, by people who had studied how this creature moved, where it migrated seasonally, which direction it bolted when frightened, and then quietly rebuilt the landscape around those answers. The gazelle was fast, but it was running through a world that had been patiently, invisibly reconstructed to catch it, by a mind that had been reading its kind for thousands of years before this particular animal ever drew its first breath. Your body doesn't know the herds are gone. It doesn't know the stone traps have long since crumbled, that nothing is waiting to be run down anymore. It only knows the old arrangement, that it was built to sweat, to track, to keep moving long after everything else has been forced to stop. Here's what nobody says when they picture early humans as the weaklings of the animal world. They weren't slow because they lost the race. They were slow because they were never running the race the animal thought it was in. The gazelle overheating in the dust. The brain reading the story pressed into the dirt. The valley quietly reshaped into a trap. They look like three separate things. They're the same thing, seen from three different depths. The animal was always playing the game it could see. Speed, distance, the next ridge, the burning in its chest. Your ancestors were playing a game the animal couldn't perceive at all, made of time, patience, and the slow, deliberate rearrangement of the world around a single certainty. It will tire before we do. Picture it one last time. An animal at full gallop across open ground, faster than anything your kind ever was, every muscle screaming toward the horizon. And somewhere behind it, too far back to matter, a single figure walking, not hurrying, not even watching that closely, just moving forward, the way water moves toward the sea. The animal is running a race. It has always been running a race against the next ridge, against the burn building inside its own chest. Your ancestors never entered that race. They were the patience the race was run against, and patience, in the end, catches everything that runs.